Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. My name is Scott Haskin, and I am your host through this fan-based podcast supported by the mighty Uriah Heep themselves. And I have a really cool show for you guys today. We are going to be getting into Bird of Prey, which is one of my favorite songs. And not just one, but two full versions of it, because they are different versions, not just a little section this time, like the full song. So we're going to get into that, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But first, I want to tell you about some of the people who have supported me and have been absolutely wonderful. And why wouldn't I want to do that? First and foremost, my graphic artist, Scott Ladzinski, who did a fantastic job on the logo. My friends at Audionamics, who I will not do a podcast without their program, IDC, Instant Dialogue Cleaner, which is very simple to use. And also they have another program called Extract Stems, which helps you separate recorded music into separate stems. So you can learn parts, you can practice along with it, all kinds of cool stuff. And they are having a great sale right now. Go to their site at audionamics.com. Also, Dave White, who is Uriah Heep's webmaster, really cool guy, has been so supportive and does a great job of helping me share the podcast, every episode that comes out, when he has power, because sometimes the power goes out because of a crazy snowstorm and he can't do it right away. But we will get the information out there to you guys. Of course, it's best if you just sign up to the podcast on whatever podcast outlet you are listening through. And of course, we have the Facebook fan page. And what's really cool about that is that every once in a while, Paul Newton, who was the bass player on the first three Uriah Heep albums and a really super cool guy, will pop on with a comment here and there. He'll help share it. Thank you so much, Paul. And always nice to chat with you now and then when we do. And so, yeah, really cool people. And of course, there is the Deep Dive Podcast Network, a really amazing group of guys that we have a great time supporting each other and really have like some fun, especially on Twitter, I think is where I've connected with most of them. And of course, that would be John and Nate at the Deep Purple Podcast. Simple Man, it's Skinner Reconsidered. And then we have Terry T-Bone Mathley at T-Bone's Prime Cuts. We have Rye at Sabbath Bloody Podcast. Paul, Joe, and David at the Lap of the Pods. And also, for some extra fun, as if all that wasn't enough, check out gottahear'emall.com, where you can get some great information about concerts from the bands Deep Purple and Emerson, Lake and Palmer / Emerson, Lake and Powell, and Ace on Music, which you can find on Stitcher. And there is a YouTube channel, but it's a little bit different from the content that is on the podcast. So there's a couple cool things to check out from Ace, who is the band's manager. And he also manages Thin Lizzy and some other acts that you may be familiar with. Really great guy. He's been incredibly helpful too with helping me get this up and running. So thank you, Ace. And you know what? I'm just so excited because this, like I said, this is one of my favorite Uriah Heep songs. But the last thing I want to tell you before we get into it is something really cool. I just realized before, as I was getting all the things set up for me to start the podcast, the way that I organize my music from bands that I follow or a song that I like or whatever on my hard drive is I just have like a film score folder, and anything that's film score goes in there so that, I'm not digging through hundreds and hundreds of things to find the one thing I want. If I know it's film score, I can go to that folder. There's even a country music folder because there's some country music I like. There's a general folder which kind of encompasses pop and rock, because I hate trying to figure out which one is which, and whatever decision I make today, I might disagree with tomorrow. So it all just goes in one folder. And then I have a friends folder for bands that I've either, worked with, are friends with, or, have done something with at some point in my life. And I actually have like a direct connection to. And just before, I started to do this and I was getting the song queued up and everything, I thought, you know what? These guys don't belong in the rock and roll folder anymore. They belong in my friends folder. So I thought it was really cool to take all the albums that I have and move them into my friends folder. So welcome Uriah Heep to my friends folder, because you guys now are my friends. You've been very, very receptive, and I appreciate that, especially Mick, who, we're going to find out what he has to say about Bird of Prey. I haven't actually listened to the clip yet, so I'm excited to hear what he had to say about one of my favorite Uriah Heep songs.
Hello there, Mick here, and I'm talking about Bird of Prey. What a great song that was. It's a typical Heep song, and it actually is the first time we actually used step harmonies, which was, became a bit of our trademark, really. We did use those step harmonies before, way back when we did the rock and roll medley. We were doing, touching on it then. So it's something that came into the fold and came into the fore, really, with Bird of Prey. So dynamite, and the high pitched vocal that David hits into the riff is just incredible. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, that's high, man. That is really high. And then, of course, as the song progresses, we go into the octave bends on the beat and R's on the offbeat. So we're still playing with vocal ideas even then, And of course, at the very end, David had a lot of fun with the ooh, ooh, R's and all that sort of stuff. And it's just a good song. It's a good rock song, and it's got a lot of trademark qualities that Uriah Heep's always been known for. So anyway, hope you enjoyed listening to that, and I guess I'll speak to you later on something else. Bye for now.
If someone were to come up to me and say, give me 4 or 5 songs that really sum up what made Uriah Heep unique and what their strengths were, this song would have to be on that list because, like Mick said, it really does cover a lot of great vocal stuff, but it also covers, the good driving beat, the way that they can put a rhythm and a melody together, and just how different they were from the other bands in the way that they did it. And obviously, the vocal work on this track is just astounding. Both versions of it, really, as we'll see. But this would have to be one of the songs that I would put on that list. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure what they all would be, but this would definitely be one of them. And it's one I've always enjoyed. In fact, I used to, in the mornings when I would first wake up and, of course, it'd be pitch black. And the first thing I would do is I would put on In the Court of the Crimson King, and I would listen to that entire 10-minute song or however long it is. And sometimes that would be enough and sometimes it wouldn't. And when it wasn't enough, I would grab Bird of Prey. That would be the other thing I would listen to. And by then I was ready to start my day. So this song, I really have quite a connection with, and I hope that you guys enjoy it. Let's just get into the song. We're going to see what it's all about, see where it goes, and see why there's 2 different versions of it. So here we are, not even 20 seconds into the song, and we're already going through so many things. We've got this, wonderful rhythm that starts out really powerful. The drums are just hitting really hard on the beat. And then you've got this amazing bass playing that's going on behind that. And then you've got the vocals that cut in here and there, and they just sound huge. The reverb on there is really tasteful. It really brings out a great dynamic, but it's not oversaturating it as if you're, in a cathedral or anything. It's really, for me, it's just the right amount. But already all this great stuff going on, and you're like, what's going to happen next? There are so many cool things going on right here in this song. It's just ridiculous. But I want to backtrack just a little bit because in his talk, Mick mentioned the scream that David Byron did going into the first verse. And as you didn't hear, it's not in this version. It's in the other version that we're going to play after this. So we're going to circle back to that comment when we get there. But I didn't want you to think that anything was wrong because that was missing. Now, you've got a really grooving bass line going here. The bass sounds rich and full in this mix. I really like it. The panning is very interesting because not anything is really hard panned to one side or another. It's a little bit more centered with some slight variations to the left and the right, which I think really works for this song. I think if it was too separated, the song would be disconnected. And I'm glad that they mixed it this way. But the guitars sound nice and strong. And then in the background almost, the keyboards are actually playing along with the vocal. And then they're doing like a little sort of fill in between where the vocal stops and starts again in the next line. So there's like a lot of really cool dynamics. And of course, the drums are just giving a great solid beat, and then bridging the gap between the rhythm and the melody is the bass line. It's really like, this is just gold to me. I'm going to play that bridge back for you again, because there's something I really want you to pay attention to in thinking about musicianship and about, writing styles, but really knowing how to make things flow, because there's a very simple decision that was made here that would have changed the dynamics of this song completely, in my opinion. And that is what Paul Newton is playing on the bass during this transition. If he just played the root notes, then it would have kind of given the song almost maybe a little bit of a slowing down effect. But because he's doing eighth notes on the bass instead of the quarter notes, it just keeps that movement going. That would have completely changed the feel of the song going into the next part, where it picks up a little bit of speed. And I think it would have been way less powerful. So that one simple decision, and we make thousands of decisions when we're writing songs, whether we realize it or not, any one of them could change the course of the song completely. And so this is one that I'm definitely glad was done as the eighth notes instead of quarter notes, because it really just keeps it moving. So hopefully you heard what I was talking about there. Anybody who is a musician probably could feel that difference. And hopefully maybe some of the rest of you guys could too. But it's one of those things that it's like such a subtle decision, but yet it's a very important one. So anyway, I thought you might find that interesting. And now we're heading into the next part. Now, for this one, I have Keith Baker listed as the drummer on the song. And I know if that's not right, someone out there will correct me. I don't know if that's for both versions or just this version or which one it is. But in any case, that's what I've got listed on the track. And I really like how heavy his foot sounds on the hi-hat pedal here, because it just adds like another intensity to the song for me. You can really kind of hear him stomping on that hi-hat pedal just to keep the timing going during this last part. And, you could tap it with the stick. You could do it very gently. You could do it harshly. But there's something different about the sound of using the foot pedal on the hi-hat versus tapping the top. For one, you're cutting off the attack because you're not hearing a wood or a plastic tip hitting that cymbal. But you've also just got the delay of how long it takes from the time that you move your foot down for the chain to pull the top of the hi-hat down, for it to hit the other cymbal, for it to choke. So you're getting a different attack. It's not a harsh attack because it doesn't have the stick hit, but it is still an attack as the two cymbals come together. It's just a little bit softer. And I like that sound for this. I think it's much better than if he would have just hit it with a stick. Of course, if he would have hit it with a stick, that's what I would be used to, and I would probably just be talking about that. So there you go. So we're about, halfway-ish through the song, maybe a little more than halfway. And I can't believe I haven't really talked about this yet, but what about David Byron's vocals through here? I mean, that is some powerful singing, lots of pitching, and just really sounds good and powerful at every pitch. It's like some singers, when they sing lower, they sound weaker. When they sing higher, they sound weaker. Everybody's got their own feel to him, but it's like he has power everywhere. And that's one of the things I always thought was amazing about him. I never felt that anything, at least nothing I can recall, that there was a time where I thought, his vocal kind of sounded weak there. I mean, it's like everything has a rich thickness and a power to it that I don't always hear from singers. Like so many singers just stay in a smaller range, and he really goes for it. And I've always loved that about him, where he chooses to do it. And this is a song that really shows off what his skills really were. I love this transition because it feels like it's abrupt, but it doesn't feel like it's abrupt at the same time. It takes the music in a completely different direction, but it doesn't at the same time. It feels like it's slowing down, but it doesn't. And the keyboards just come in so heavy and distorted. I love that. And then you've got that part that Mick plays right before the vocals come in. I love the way that comes in, kind of like just, really quickly fades in out of nowhere. And then he plays that little lick. It's just so tasteful. And those are the little things that make a song special a lot of times, because you can have a good riff, you can have a good vocal, you can have a good beat, good rhythm section. But a lot of times what sets a song apart are those little fillers that you notice, and sometimes you don't notice them. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, I never noticed that before, because you hear a different mix or on a different set of speakers. And then that becomes such an important part of the song. And it's just a little thing that makes a big difference. And so I really like that transition. I really like where the song is going at this point. It just feels like it's puffed out its chest now and it's ready to go into the next thing. If you've ever seen a video or been lucky enough to be in a recording studio when a singer is recording their vocals in the vocal booth, I'm trying to picture David standing there and just doing the ooh and the ah part, where you're just kind of like, all right, wait for it, ooh, wait for it, ah. That had to be a lot of fun, just kind of laying back and just interjecting here and there during that track. But what's really cool about that too is it's just huge sounding. The reverb on that is very big. It carries out for a couple of seconds going back into the music from there. And it just sounds rich and full, which is part of that real classic Heep sound. But on top of that, they also panned David's vocals a little bit. I can hear it a little more in the left ear and the reverb a little bit more into the right. So they kind of separated the vocal and the effect a little bit. And that definitely is part of the early sound. That changed going forward at some point, but and we'll figure out where that is. But it's definitely something that was very trademark of this particular album. But think about the time frame that we're talking about here, 69, 70. There was a lot of changes going on in the production of music. Coming out of the 60s, the Motown sound, where everything was way over reverbed, very separated. Everything was very much in mono. In the pop world, thinking like Motown bands like the Supremes, the Temptations, that kind of thing. Everything was very separated. And when rock music started to come in with the more richer, well-rounded tones, you've got distorted guitar, you've got a heavy keyboard, you've got bass that's a little bit harder driving, a little bit more low end in the mix than you would have in most pop songs. And it's all different dynamics. So at this point, the engineers are still trying to figure out, how do we make this sound good? What's the best way to do things? And they were, I think personally, they were kind of still wanting to make things mono, not really knowing how to put things in the stereo field a little bit. And this was really during that transition, because you can hear some things are starting to come into stereo play, but there's still a lot of mono, hard panning effects on one side, vocals on the other, guitar on one side, keyboards on the other. This one's a little bit more well-rounded throughout the song until we get to that last part where the vocals are a little bit more to the left. So this is kind of almost where I see a little bit of that transition going, well, wait a minute, what if we did this? And bringing a different dynamic to how the song was mixed. Because like I said in the beginning, if this was still separated, still hard panned, like some of the other songs were, I don't think it would have the dynamics that it does. How beautiful is that reverb? That's just amazing, especially when you have such fantastic singers that harmonize together so well, and then you can really blend them together nicely. That's another part that we haven't really talked about, is the way that the engineer blended the vocals together. Now, of course, live, they have to balance, who sings louder, who sings softer, how they're going to pan it. When you're in the studio, it's the same thing. Everything is a decision. So you've got the songwriters and making decisions. They're making decisions as they perform. Then you've got the audio engineer and the producer making decisions about how the song's going to work, how it's going to sound, how the tones are going to shape it. And then you've got the decisions going into it, creating the guitar sound. How do I tune the drums? How heavy do I make the bass? What reverb do I want? All of those things. There's so much that goes on. But when you listen to how they harmonize, it just sounds so natural. It doesn't sound like any work was put into making it better. It just sounds very human, very natural. And I love that. And then you put a reverb on it like that, and it just, it takes it to a whole nother level. So really kudos to everybody that's involved on these songs, because it really does take a group of people to make all of this production happen, for it to get from a thought in someone's head to the band, to the engineer, to the producer, to you guys and us. So great song, and we're going to get into the second version now. Now, if I remember right, and my memory honestly is really hazy, I tried to figure it out. The version of Salisbury that I had originally with the red cover, I'm pretty sure that's where I heard Bird of Prey. I don't think I had it on Very Heavy, Very Humble. I'm pretty sure it was on Salisbury, which is why it, mentally, I've always associated with that. And when I got the deluxe CD and it was on the first album, I thought, well, that's really weird, But then again, thinking there was a different European version versus the American version, it kind of makes sense that I only knew the two songs. So the song that I knew first is the one that we're actually about to listen to now. And this is the one that has that really great vocal entry into the song that Mick was talking about from David Byron. So you're going to get to hear that. But the words are different. The feel of it is different. The sound of it is completely different, because obviously it was mixed at a different time. I don't know the ins and outs of what vocal was recorded or how that all came to play, or which was decided would go on what album. A lot of times that's up to the record company anyway. But either way, there were two separate vocals recorded, and it's really interesting to hear the difference between the two. So when I play this version, I'm not going to stop it as much. I'm going to point out a couple of things, but mainly let's just enjoy the song. What do you even say to that? That is so powerful, so much passion in that right there. And again, that's a dynamic that really changes it from, the other version. It's just one of those little things that just sticks with you. And I think that's why, one of the reasons I've always liked this version better. I think the vocals are better on this one for my taste. But again, this is the one I heard first. So maybe that's part of the reason. But I do like the lead in to the what would be the chorus, even though there's no vocal to it. I like that better than I liked it on the original version. I think the words are a little bit better there. They're more interesting to me. But there's something I just noticed that I as many times as I've listened to this song, I don't think I ever heard before. Normally, when you're going like da 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 da, you're gonna, as a drummer, you're gonna hit on every one of those, right? And he does, but on the very last one of each pass, he doesn't hit a drum with the cymbal. He just hits the cymbal and it stops. And I never noticed that before. So all the times I've played this song as a drummer, I've been playing it wrong. So I think it's a good thing I did this podcast. Otherwise, I might not have ever noticed that before.
I can see that look that says beware. Try to move in closer if you dare. So I must sit and play my waiting game. And for a while I know she'll do the same. Fly away.
So that's a completely different delivery during the entire verse for the vocal. The times when he raises his voice in pitch is a completely different delivery. Instead of "oh no," we've got "fly away," which I like better. And it's the same song, but it just feels different just because of the way that the vocals are done. I don't think it's a different musical version at all. Just an overlay of a different vocal track. I also want to mention how great Mick Box's sound is on this song. I mean, just the right level of distortion, very interesting chords that he played in that last section, just really cool stuff. And aside from that little fill that he puts in a bit later, this I think it's just such a great, solid performance. It's mostly rhythm, but he just throws in those chords that are really interesting, really nice, and really just make it a unique sound. I think if he would have just done the kind of typical playing that you would hear a guitarist play, I think it would still be a good song. It would groove. It would have a good motion to it. But he just always finds this interesting tone that just sets him apart from other guitarists. And that's one of the other things that I've always loved about his playing. And not only that, but the sound, that level of distortion. It doesn't sound too thin. It doesn't sound too thick. It's not too bassy. He's got a great bass line in this song, so he doesn't need to put that much low end into it. And it's just a really good balance between everybody.
Watches like an eagle from its and like a bird of prey she captures. But I am older and more wise than you. Bird of prey straight into me you fly away.
I think actually, I know I said I wasn't going to stop the song that much, but I think I want to bring up something else that's really important. And this song as a bass player, that is a workout, man. If you're playing finger bass, even if you're playing by pick, it's not as bad, but if you're playing finger bass, this song just keeps going. It's a freight train. and really listen to what Paul's playing here, because it's some spectacular playing. For me, I would get to like the second verse or the second chorus and I'd be like, okay, I'm done. I can't play anymore because I'm not that good of a bass player. But Paul is, and it really shines on this song. And also, I want to say too, I really like the snare sound on this. I would like a little bit more bass drum, but I really like the snare sound on this song. It's not too deep. It's not too heavy. It's kind of light, but it works. I think, it's really easy to get overboard with EQ and try and make everything heavy. And I don't think you always need to do that. I think you need more of a balance to keep things going. And I think it's really good here. I would like a little bit more kick, especially if it was punchy instead of low end. But overall, yeah, I really like the sound of this song. In case you didn't know, I'm a fan. I'm not sure I like the choice to fade out on that version. I think the other version sounded better. It sounded a little bit more haunting with that vocal ending it a cappella with the reverb. But I don't really know that the fade worked. Maybe it's because I know the song ended there anyway, so a fade seemed a little, kind of unnecessary. But definitely, it's a good version of the song. It's the one that I got used to. I like the mix on it. I like the mix on the first one better for my taste, but really good. I would like to hear, I think, kind of a mix of the two vocally, like during the verses, where it wasn't all one way or all the other way as far as when he increased his pitch. Maybe a little more variety would be cool. Just kind of like take this one from that and that one from the other one and mix it up a little bit. But overall, just a fantastic song. And this is definitely one that really highlights everything that this band was about. Great keyboards, although they were a little more buried in this song. You really couldn't hear that little lick that he was playing as well on some of the parts. But if you really listen close, you can hear it. Great guitar work, nothing overplayed, no solo, which is really interesting. I mean, I guess you could count that little part that Mick played as a solo. It's really the only thing the song would have that would come close to it. But it's interesting. There's so many cool dynamics about this band that you don't realize that there's something that's missing from a typical rock song. You expect there's going to be a guitar solo or a keyboard solo or something somewhere. And you go through the whole song, you don't realize it's missing. And you're like, wait a minute. How could they not have done a solo in this song? That's such a standard thing to do. But it's not for this band. They've got so many cool things that they don't need to have that all the time. There's so many other dynamics at play, like just that little keyboard lick, if you could hear it, much like that guitar part, that little keyboard lick that Ken's playing in the background, just that da-da-da-da-da, really just adds a little bit to it when you can hear it shine through. And if you know it's there, then you hear it the rest of the time as well. But it's so cool that they don't have to throw a solo into every song to make it an enjoyable song. And things that you would expect to hear, things that are so standard or so typical, like whether there's vocals in the chorus or not. They don't need to have vocals in the chorus if they don't want to. They've got so many other vocal dynamics that it doesn't make you feel like you're missing anything. And I think that's one of the things that's really unique about Uriah Heep, because most bands, it seems like they really, they kind of build the song around the chorus a lot of times. And here the chorus is like, well, we're just going to have this part. It doesn't need to be a chorus, or it could just be musical. And I think that's really cool because there's not a lot that I know of, especially from this era, that really explored that as a possibility. The chorus was always kind of the hook, the chorus and the riff. So very cool song. I hope that you guys enjoyed it too. I'd be curious to know what are you, team Oh No, or are you team Fly Away? Which one did you like better? Why don't you go ahead and hit us up on Twitter at Heep Podcast. You can also find us on Instagram at Uriah Heep Podcast. And the email that you also would want to sign up for is uriahheeppodcast@gmail.com. I'm going to circle back to that in a second, but you can also follow the show at www.scotthaskin.com/Uriah_Heep_podcast. Or you could just click the link in the show notes and make it even easier than trying to type all that in, because that's really kind of unnecessary. And then the Facebook group, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Uriah Heep Podcast. Real simple, but it's a lot to type. So if you just go to the website, which you can click that link, it has the links to everything there. You can just click on, sign up, do all that good stuff. Now, on the mailing list, I've only sent out one email so far, and that was just to let everybody know that the episodes were starting. I'm not going to be sending out a whole lot of emails from there, but here's why you may want to sign up for this, because I realized something that doesn't work as well as I had hoped it would. When I go to the Facebook page and I try to look at everyone who's subscribed and everyone who's liked the page, I do not get the full list. So as I was trying to compile everybody's names to get to the point when we start doing the drawings, I'm not able to really capture everybody. And that's not going to be fair. If you happen to have a name that I don't catch on the list because it doesn't come up for me and you're not in the drawing, that's really not fair to you because you signed up for the page. So my suggestion, so that I have the full access to the entire list, would be to go to the link at the bottom of the Uriah Heep page on my website and go to sign up for that email. That's probably going to be your best bet. I can pull that list and then I can run the contest based on everybody who's signed up as of the day that I run the contest. So when we get to those a little bit down the road, that'll be much better, and everyone will have a chance at winning. Of course, those of you whose names I can see, you have you have an advantage now, but you'll have the same chance as everyone else. But none of you know who you are because you don't know what I can and can't see. So there's that. Sign up for the email list. It's the best chance of winning. And I answer all those myself. Those come to me, and be happy to have a chat. I've had some wonderful chats with a couple of people there that have been writing back and forth as the episodes come out. Thank you guys. It's been wonderful. And it's been wonderful bringing you two versions of Bird of Prey, an excellent song. Deep Purple also did a song called Birds of Prey. And when I saw that was on the album, and that was on the album Infinite, it's the last original song on the album. And I thought, oh, wow, wouldn't it be cool if Deep Purple did a cover of Bird of Prey? And then I thought, well, it's Birds of Prey, so it's probably a different song. And they don't do a lot of covers, but I think they would do an interesting job covering that song. I'd like to hear. So I put it out to anyone who has the ability to reach out to Deep Purple. Do a cover of Bird of Prey. I think that'd be fun. But Birds of Prey is also a fantastic song. It's probably my favorite song on Infinite. But this isn't a Deep Purple podcast. I'll leave that to Nate and John. This is a Uriah Heep podcast. And I want to thank you guys for joining me. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Obviously, as you can see, we have increased the volume of what we're bringing to you. And it's going to take a while to get through all of these songs. I mean, we're talking 50 years of Uriah Heep. And thank you guys for joining me. Thank you, Mick, for chiming in on this wonderful song. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!